It was at this moment that he knew.
He bucked up. Welcome. You're listening to Bucked Up with Sam Buck.
Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. You have fucked up now. Now you fucked up. 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 Now you have fucked up.
Welcome to Bucked Up, Ralph Sutton. Thank you so much for being on. I'm a real fan of your podcast, of your work as a starting guest, and also it's really funny. Just a quick little story. I went to Wheaton College, and I have a minor in peace and social justice.
Okay.
I didn't mean to get that minor. I was just like, oh, what are the easiest classes I can take? And I got that minor with it. And I took a class on queer television, and we studied your episode of Queer Eye.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, so before I even knew you through comedy, any of that, I studied you in college.
That episode specifically, or the show?
We studied the show, but as a case study, that episode specifically. And as before you came on, I went back to look it up, and I was like, holy fuck, this is the episode we watched.
Can I ask why? Was it just because that was the newest episode of the time, or was there a specific reason that episode?
My teacher, I guess, loved the episode, thought it was funny, and liked you, and so she picked that one for
That's so funny.
to watch. Yeah, and then
coincidentally, well, two quick things. One, I picked my same major that way, which was my second or third year of college. When you have to pick a major, I looked at what was going to be the easiest. And for me, it sounds like I was doing it on purpose. It was communications and business, which is what I'm doing. But it was totally because that was that. And then two, I just got back from filming the reunion special for Queer Eye.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So there's a new show coming out, I think, in March or April, and it's called Reunions. And they take classic casts of different shows to do one more episode. And they asked me to be a part of the Queer Eye one.
Wow. Did you feel honored that you were picked for that?
Well, it's hilarious is because the way it happened was I got an email from, a DM on Facebook, and someone asked, are you the Ralph Sutton that was on Queer Eye? We're filming a reunion special. And I said, yes, I am. And she wrote back, well, the guy we wanted to do it can't do it. So can you do it? So it was a backhanded way of getting in there. I guess I was choice number 2 or less. I don't know, but I definitely wasn't their first choice.
Everybody love everybody.
Hey, number 2 is better than anything.
She could have sent that to 20 people, and I was the first to respond. And I do know, which I confirmed with them when I was there, mine was the most watched episode of the series.
Well, I mean, my teacher probably made every class watch this for years. We probably really helped with those numbers.
That's funny. Can I ask, not to go, just curious, what was the case study about how gay people are portrayed in television? What was the point of the analysis? Yeah.
So the class was queer and people of color television, and how that show was used as a portrayal of gay people in a landscape that didn't really have a lot of that type of portrayal on television. That's and really we just watched that, and it was just kind of a weird coincidence. Yeah,
that is really funny. It's nice to know last question is, how many years ago are we talking? When it was on, or she used it as?
No, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow, that's so weird because
I'm 23 years old. I'm pretty young. That's why there is a minor called Peace and Social Justice. That was pretty new.
That's so weird because that we shot that 16 years ago. So that is amazing that's still being, at least in your teacher's eyes, is considered a part of worthy of educating others on. That's pretty wild. That's really fun.
Were you on? Was that was season 1, right?
Season 1. It was. So what happened? We filmed it, and they liked it so much that they held it to launch the second half of season 1. So it was the first episode back after I forget when it aired. I think it was in February.
Was it because you were funny, or was it because you were such a schlump?
I don't know. I think that it was also because, the singer of Motley Crue was in it. It had a lot of things. There was a dating story. There was there's strippers in it. So I think they knew that it was going to hit a lot of different people to find something that they would enjoy in that episode. And so I feel like that's why it went well.
Yeah, I think that's why also it was picked, is because it is like a more exciting episode.
Yeah, it was a lot going on. It really was. It was
What did
crazy.
you do with the reunion? Are you allowed to?
Yeah, you know what's weird? I mean, I told them I'm not going to really shit on them, but it was a really bad experience in terms of it wasn't the same crew at all. It was this new crew, and they just first of all they flew me out.
Crew?
It's for
Was
E.
it like-
It's going to be on E, not on Bravo. Same. They own the same. This company owns both networks. You know, Bravo and E is owned by the same company. But so they flew me out. I was there for 2 days. They realized they made a mistake. They couldn't film that weekend. They flew me home. I waited 5 days and then flew back again. I waited in my hotel room. Everything's quarantine nonsense. So I had to get tested before I leave, tested when I land, wait 24 hours, get tested again. Couldn't leave the hotel. There's all these fail safes put in place for COVID, which I totally get, but I just had to do it twice, which was annoying. And then when I went to film that day, they had me get there by 11:30 in the morning. They picked me up. Well, very nice. But I sat in a room by myself for 6 hours with no internet, no television, nothing, no way to power my phone. So I couldn't even surf I couldn't even use my phone because I didn't have any charger. I didn't know I'd be there. And I finally started filming at like 6 at night, which is weird. I just sat in a room by myself forever. It was really, really hard to stay focused.
Yeah.
It was really ridiculous. And then I think realistically, I shot 10 minutes worth of stuff. They told me they'd buy me a lot of clothes. They bought me no clothes. They were going to give me a haircut. They didn't give me a haircut. They told me they were going to get me like hair and makeup shit. They didn't do any of that. I just was there. It was the cast themselves, the Queer Eye guys almost left because there was so much chaos on set. Nothing would it was crazy. So I don't even know if it'll come out, but I did shoot it. But it was probably, look, I've only done maybe 10 TV shows in my life at most. And it was the worst handled television experience of my life.
This motherfucker
That sounds horrible. Maybe they were trying to make everyone really frustrated, so it was like a high tense. But no, it just sounds like
I don't know. I just feel like just to give you one example, we're finally filming. They're going through my suitcase. They pick out some stuff, and then Carson says, "You know what would look great with this? A really cool jacket." And they had told me ahead of time. Carson picked out these amazing, like $1,000 great rock and roll blazers for you. You're gonna love them. And this is while we're filming, and they stop and go, "Wait a minute. Yeah, we didn't get to buy him that. So we had to stop because we didn't have it." So we shot it. We started shooting again. And then he goes, "Oh, I guess those jackets, that'll work without wish you had a jacket, but whatever." And then they give me Kyan, and Kyan says, "Let's get you a haircut so you look cool for the night because we're doing it." And they go, "Stop. Yeah, we don't have time to get him a haircut." It was almost seemed like it was a joke. It was crazy. But, whatever. I'm glad that they even brought me out. It was fun. And I got to get free food and a trip to LA for a few days. Even if I was on lockdown, it was a cool hotel.
Trips to LA.
Yeah, 2 trips to LA. I stayed at the London, which is like a really cool hotel in LA. And I just basically sat at the pool for 5 days and then was used one day and went home.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Did they know who you were? Or were they just like, "Oh, fuck, this guy has a way to..."
The Queer Eye guys, it was all the old original guys. They all remembered me. That team did. And I think that the staff, probably the prerequisite was to watch that episode because they did seem to be familiar with who I was. I'm imagining it wasn't part of their educational experiences such as yours was, but it was they probably had to watch it before.
You know what I'm saying? I'm so down with your shit. You know what I'm saying? Keeping it real. I'm saying.
Yeah. It was fun. But I don't think it's going to come out. I'll be shocked if it comes out. Oh, sorry. I'll be shocked if it comes out because I think we shot 5 minutes of material at most, and that's being kind. But maybe they shot another week without me. I don't know.
Everybody love everybody.
So it was just reunion for Queer Eye. It wasn't like reunion.
Apparently, it's a series. This is the first episode, and each episode is a reunion of a different cast to do one more episode. So I don't know. I would imagine there's enough reality shows to go 10 seasons with that, but they're just gonna maybe the week after was I don't know tiny houses or something. I have no idea. But this was the first episode in theory for a series called Reunions.
Well, you turned out pretty good from that show. You have a successful company. You wrote a fitness book, which I love.
Yeah. We talked about that. That's the only reason why I do hope it comes out is when we didn't have time to do a haircut, didn't have time to do clothes. There's no house to make over. They did spend a good 2-3 minutes talking about Gas Digital and my podcast. So I hope that if it does come out, that'd be great promotion for my show.
Oh, that was a good bump. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Did you get to talk about your book?
Yeah. Well, my book wasn't out yet then. So I'll give you a little quick thing. So I have another podcast, the more popular one, which you kind of see up on the wall there, SDR, Sex, Drug, Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
Been doing it about 5.5, 6 years. It does well. I would say it's not as big as, say, some of the bigger shows on the network like Legion of Skanks, but it does pretty well. All right. Of course, you should never be happy with your numbers. So I'm not happy with mine, but I'm sure there's thousands of shows that would kill to have my numbers, whatever. It just, you should never be happy anyway. But that being said, I started another podcast about a year ago that's more about health and wellness with the founder of a company called Juice Press. I know you're not in New York, but in New York, they have like 80 locations, and it's all.
I know Juice Press.
Yeah,
I do. I can visit. Yeah.
They're pretty popular. Yeah, their founder is a friend of mine, and we started a health and wellness show. And to be honest, what happened was, not to be a downer, but like 4 years ago, almost exactly 4 years ago, my father died. I got depressed. I gained I'm going to say 65, 70 pounds. And I just started to really feel like shit. And COVID, oddly enough, was the catalyst to start getting me to start trying to get back into shape. And it took the 180 for me. Most people were drinking and doing drugs. I started running and trying to eat healthier and really started focusing on feeling better. I'm doing a little meditation every day. I'm trying to eat healthier, I run or work out almost every single day now, pretty much. And then I had bringing on all these different health and wellness experts on Good Sugar, which is the other podcast, Good Sugar Podcast. It's funny how everybody tries to come up with some sort of scenario on how to get into shape and how to find a better, get into fitness or whatever, whether it's a vegan diet, a keto diet, a intermittent fasting, or whatever it is. We're all looking for the trick to make you feel better, right? So I was joking about this with a friend of mine. They thought it was funny. I told it to my brother. He thought it was funny. So I decided, okay, I'm going to put this book out. And it is called, I'm holding it up here, The 100% Guaranteed Guide to Weight Loss and Fitness by Ralph Sutton. It is currently on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble. It's only in hard copy. The first chapter says eat less. The second page, chapter 2, says work out more. And the rest of the book is blank.
Well, that's honestly all you can do. Is actually, I'm really happy that we get to talk about this. There was like two paths that people went down over quarantine. They either drank a lot, gained a lot of weight, or something, happened and they pushed it. I lost 50 pounds over quarantine.
Oh, wow. Good for you. So we had the same thing happen to both of us, basically.
Exactly. And it's funny. I meditate every day. I do shout out to yoga with Sarah Beth. I do yoga every day, and I run almost every day.
I run every other day. I was running from the first week of April till about 2 weeks ago. I run every other day and never missed a day, whether it was raining, freezing, 100 degrees, whatever it was. But I had never run before in my life. Had you?
I 2 years ago, actually it's about 3 years ago, I picked it up. I was not a very healthy person, but I picked up running and I fell in love with it. And I slowly built up, and now I'm to a place where I can. How tall are you?
I'm 6'5.5". I'm a big guy.
Oh, see, I'm 6'4", so it's hard, like on my knees running, but I love it. So I have to not do it every day, but I try to, because it's the only exercise I really was like, oh, I love this. Like,
it's funny. I had the 180 response to it, which is I tried starting it 5 times over the years, and I've always hated it. And I still would say I don't love it, but what I find that it is somewhat therapeutic, the repetitive motion, the just you, no phone. I did listen to educational podcasts while I'm running. I feel like I'm helping my mind and my body at the same time, right? And now I started with an app called Couch to a 5K. I don't know if you ever heard of that app. The idea is, you're a fat slob sitting on the couch and you got to try to get to a 5K, which is 3 miles. And it starts with 1 minute runs, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk, 1 minute run. I couldn't even do the 1 minute run to start. That's how bad my launch spot was. And then this past Saturday, I ran a half marathon, 2.5 hours, which is pretty crazy. It's what a difference 5, 6, 7 months makes.
It is crazy. When I started, I forced myself to run 10 minutes a day, no matter how far that was. It was 10 minutes. I could do 10 minutes. And then I just kind of slowly built it up. But the reason I find running enjoyable, and I want to talk to you about this because of your show also, is I smoke weed before I run. Before I run, I get high, and then it allows me to kind of check out. And whether I'm listening to a podcast, a book on tape, music, it does make it enjoyable. And I know you're not a super big drug guy. You're more of the.
I do no drugs. I've never done any drugs. I try one drug a year on the show, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. What's been your favorite?
I've hated them all. I'm not made for drugs. And I also think, a lot of the fans have said this to me and a few other, people that work in the SDR and gas digital world. I'm trying drugs in the worst possible scenario, which is on air in front of a bunch of people on camera, trying to keep a show going. Yeah. You can't lean into it and just be silly or whatever. So I've hated everything. But the only one I would say that I was like, oh, I kind of get it, was Molly. I kind of get it, but I felt like shit the next day, which is the problem with all drugs for me. It's not worth the aftermath.
I've never done Molly. I'm not a big drug guy. I like weed just because it like allows me to calm down. I've always been a very like high energy hyper person. So when I get high, I just kind of like focus. And I don't
totally
like
get that. I totally get that. The issue for me is I'm a very low key guy to begin with. So if I smoke, I just don't do anything. And whether it's indica, sativa, doesn't matter. I just get checked out. I get checked out.
Well, that's like, I don't even like caffeine. Like caffeine, I don't like coffee, tea, I can't drink because it'll like fuck me up. I'm not even.
Then that makes sense. I get it for you. I get it for someone like you. Everyone's brain is wired differently. And I hate when everybody tries to make, although hilariously my book tries to do this, where you try and do grand answers for 100% of the people, because there is no grand answers for 100% of the people, because everyone's brains are wired differently.
That is the grand answer, is eat less and work out more. I mean, honestly, people like to make things so complicated, but it really is. Like if you think, like when I look back at how much I used to eat, I'm like, God damn it. Like,
let me ask you, because we're the same height. I mean, you're a lot younger than me, but you were roughly, I'm an inch and a half taller than you. I guess you're 6'4"? Yeah, I'm 6'5.5". What size shoe are you?
I'm 11 and a half.
Oh,
small
that's
foot.
small. That's small. I'm a 15. So I just think I'm a bigger frame than you. So you probably weigh a lot less than me. What do you weigh?
Well, see, I'm 217 now, but at the beginning of quarantine, I was 268.
Okay, wow. So I am now about 250, but I should be about 225 to 240, somewhere in that area. Like I remember when I got to 220 once, it was right after Queer Eye, actually, to go full circle on this. Carson came to do my radio show after about maybe 3 months after Queer Eye came out. And he came to me and he took me aside. He goes, "Can I tell you something?" And he goes, "Eat a fucking sandwich. You look too thin." I was like, okay. I guess I got to the point where I was 220 is too thin for me, because I think I look like I might be broader than you. And I just have I'm a bigger guy. So to me, the goal weight for me is about 240. But I went up to 296, which is almost 300 pounds is crazy. So now I think I just stopped weighing myself because I found it to be having an adverse effect if it doesn't have the number.
Not to weigh.
Yeah.
It's just a number that I used to be that way with pant size. Were you always a big framed person?
Always. Yeah. Always a big guy. Yeah.
Buying clothes growing up, because like you have to get like the triple X's, or like at one point I was a 46 waist. And just like being a young, I was a big boy, but I just have a big waist too. I've always bought bigger pants, but I hated that, like having big, you not a lot of people have big frames like that. You have to go until you find big enough doors.
I tell people,
and then you feel like it's up zero.
The normal way somebody would shop for clothes is you find something you like and you get it in your size. But the way that I have to shop, and I imagine you have to shop as well, is you find the few things that might fit you, and then you take the least objectionable thing because those are your options. There's just not a lot of options. And then even with my size 15 shoe, it's like 1% of the shoe designers make a size 15, and that's it. So there's very minimal options to get anything that would fit my feet.
Well, see, I am lucky in that way that I have small feet, because I feel like shoes for fat guys are like purses for fat girls. It's like you can't like show off what you want to wear. So like I used to be a sneakerhead because I was like, I don't look good in clothes, but I can have cool shoes. Like if you see a fat girl, they always have a nice purse because they can't like.
I like the analogy. I can agree with that. For me, I can't do either because nobody makes nice shoes or nice clothes for me. So I'm screwed.
No, you're going to look like the Undertaker with whatever you wear.
100%. It's horrible. It really is hard. And I am hyper aware of my enormity in social settings, because the amount of times I hear people when I walk into a room or feel like, oh my, or holy shit, or check that guy, you get so immune to it. But I'm just super aware that I look like a monster when I walk into a room.
Yeah, and it's also,
I love everybody. I'm sorry.
Everyone mentioned. I hate everyone mentioning it, like how tall you are.
Yeah.
Are you an anxious person?
An angry person?
Anxious.
Oh, anxious. No. I'd say that it's funny. I'm the antithesis of all the comics on Gas Digital. I'm very even keeled. I rarely get upset. I like to talk things out. I don't hold on to grudges. I think I'm very different than most of the people that either have shows on my network or that I work with, because I don't want to say, I don't know why that is. I've just always been that way.
Because I'm tall and I see if I meet someone who's 5'7" and they have a strong presence, I'll see them as taller than me. I don't see myself as a big guy. So I get in bad situations. I make myself smaller, kind of. I'm an only child. That could be
I'm a twin brother, and my twin brother's 5'7".
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's really weird. And also, I was born New Year's Eve. He was born January 1st. We're twins born in different years. It's very strange.
Are your personalities different too?
He is far more likable and far more personable. Like people just tend to gravitate towards him. My entire life, I was Joey's brother. I didn't have an identity. Like it was really wild. The amount of times we'd be hanging out, even in my house with friends, and then people would say, oh, I'm at Joey's house. I'm like, well, I'm fucking standing right here. Like you can't even say Joey and his brother. But it was always just, he's just a more likable guy, for sure. And he's charming, I guess is the best way to put it. He definitely is a charming guy. And
you don't think you're a charming guy?
No, I think that, look, I've talked about this a lot, but there are people that have put out podcasts called Why I Hate Ralph Sutton. So I think that people tend to not like me. Even my producer, Shannon, one of my producers, your producer, Ani, also works on the show. But Shannon flat out said that before she was listening to SDR before she came to work for me and the company. She told me she didn't like me. She knew the show. She didn't like it. She listened for Jay. And I get it. I'm a different person. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't want to be an asshole or want to be grating, but I guess it happens sometimes. Some people find it that way. It's funny because I took an idea for a radio show and built it to be on 100 stations. Like my old career, I had a radio show that was on, syndicated nationally. So when I read these things, the tour bus, I did it for 17 years. It was how I paid for everything my whole life. It did very well. And I built that on my own as my personality. I think my attitude or my cadence or whatever you want to call it worked better, at least initially, in that radio format of 3 to 5 minute mic breaks, because the show would always be picked up and growing and growing. And then in the podcast world, it was the first time I would start reading all this fucking hate mail about me. And I was surprised by it. I don't know why. I think it might have to do with the people's love of Jay or expecting me to be a comic. I don't know what it is, but I just keep doing what I know worked for me for 16 years. And eventually the people that do like the show will find it. The people that don't will move on.
I'm not going to lie. It sounds like you have anxiety.
I think more that I've
sounded like a 3-minute rant about how you have anxiety. But no, how do you deal with that hate? Because I don't have anywhere close to the same following as you. And if I have a clip go viral on Reddit, someone will be like, you fucking suck. And it hurts a little bit.
The term the statement I've made 1,000 times, and I've done a lot of consulting for podcasts and stuff like that, because gas has done well and whatever. And my answer is always, what I will tell you is the person that is talking about you and shitting on you, no one is talking about them, right? If it's somebody you respect that tells you, oh, I listened to your show and I fucking hated it. Like if Joe Rogan decides to at you and say, oh my God, I listened to the Sam Buck's podcast and holy shit, was it terrible? That would hurt me. Someone I respect that is in the field that I am, doesn't like it, that would really bother me. But that's never happened, fortunately. People that are just adding you, which I find that psychopathic, that if someone wants to say, I hate Ralph Sutton is fine. But to say, I am Ralph Sutton because you want me to know, that's psychopathic to me. That's crazy. But yeah. I don't engage. Sometimes we had something crazy happen a couple of months ago with, you're too young to know who these people are, but Sebastian Bach, who's a singer of Skid Row, and Rob Halford.
My dad was a death metal drummer, so I'm a rap guy, but he was a rock and roll and metal guy. So that's how I knew about your show and all that too.
Oh, that's
it all kind of.
So
yeah.
we had this thing come out with Rob Halford and Sebastian Bach. It's not worth getting into what happened, but the clip went crazy viral, everywhere. Every rock site in the country was talking about it. And we got inundated with hate, mostly to Jay, but a lot of it came into the show specifically, not just to Jay. It would go to the show, and I get those emails and those messages, and I would try and have the discussion with them and try to understand why they're so angry. And that never went well, but I felt like I was at least worth trying. But it wasn't about me. It was about Jay. They deemed Jay to be homophobic for a joke that he made. And to me, the guy that was supposed to be upset by it, Rob Halford, was not upset. He actually wants us to put on a roast for him. So I don't understand why they were upset about it. And I was trying to get to the bottom of, if the guy that's supposed to be mad is not mad, why are you mad for him? I don't get it. And those conversations never went well because they've already made up their minds.
Well, doesn't that kind of go back to running? Like you said, you don't enjoy running, but when you do that, you get out all your hate, like all the bad things you want to say to people, all the things that you're mad about. Like that's like the last mile of my run, I'll just be like, not fuming, but I'll use it to push me. And none of those people are working. None of those people are working out. It's the thing where you're like, none of those people are listening to them. None of those people are getting their anger out in other ways. They're not meditating.
Of course, that's their outlet, is to shit on people online, which is just a crazy thing. I don't think I've ever added someone to shit on them in my life, unless it was like a joke back and forth with somebody, not something serious. I've never done that. It's a heckler. You're a heckler. Like I've never once went to go see a comedy show and thought, oh, I can make this better by getting involved from the audience. But there are people that legitimately think they're helping by heckling.
It's like thing. People who fight on Facebook or, just like comment to argue, or even I've gotten to the point where it's like, if I can tell someone's heated about a point they're telling me, I'll just agree with them because I don't want to engage. Like I don't argue with anyone. Like what's the point? I'm not going to change your mind.
The only time in my life I got a little heated this year with all the COVID deniers, that started to bother me. But now I don't engage it anymore. There was like a 1 month stint, maybe around May, when it was really getting scary in New York, I think, was it when we got locked down in May? I don't remember. I think it was in May when everything got locked down. Mm-hmm. And I was just getting so annoyed that people were still like denying that it was a thing. And my attitude was, all right, let's just say it's fake. If you're right, you can make fun of me in a few months. But if it's not fake, then you killed people. They're like, let's just ride it out and see what happens. Get ready to make fun of me in 6 months, and that'd be great. I don't mind. You being wrong is far worse than me being wrong, and that was just my attitude. But a lot of people get very angry about it because it became politicized, and I hate that everything recently has become politicized. To me, the worst thing that Trump ever did was make me care about politics. I don't want to care about politics.
Yeah, and it's also with nothing to do, people are just. Right. That's all they have is their like opinion online. That's kind of why I do enjoy having a podcast. And I mean, probably why you do is that time is the time where you can kind of get your energy out, get the thoughts you want to have out. And then the rest of the week, I can like build up that again until I empty the trash can or like flush that toilet on the podcast.
It's funny. I have a friend. She's a somewhat famous actress, and she had been struggling and annoyed with the industry of entertainment and was always getting cock blocked for various reasons. And I pushed her to start a podcast because I said, you are not going to have anyone telling you, you got to do this scene more this way, or you got to be this, just go be yourself. And she found it to be so therapeutic because she could just do what she wants, you know? And that's why I'm a big advocate. My answer to everybody when they say, I think I should start a podcast is do it. Just do it. It doesn't cost anything. Just get started. And then if you like it, you could start investing money into it because you don't need any money. You can use like Anchor and be up and running in 10 minutes. And if you're still doing it 3 months from now, then you could start looking at, oh, I'm going to invest in a mic. I'm going to invest in a better setup, but just do it. Ooch.
It's really true. And I don't like that, like, oh, there's too many, because people get weeded out. And also, like, if you have something that people want to watch, they're going to want to watch it. I'm a nobody comedian from Boston, from Cape Cod, actually. I'm not even from Boston, but somehow I've been able to build I've only had this podcast for 6 months, and over 6 months, I've been able to build up, you know, a small fan base, but at least over 1,500 monthly downloads and over 20,000 impressions a month. And it's just something. And of course, as you said, never be happy about your numbers.
And by the way, I knew where you were from because I listened to your last episode with Juan. I do my due diligence.
Oh, that you listened to that one?
Yeah, I always go by the most recent episode. You know, that to me, you should, every show, good or bad, should live or die by their last episode. Like, that's just how I feel about it, even though I've had some shitty ones. That's funny. We just put out an episode now that I fucking hated. The guy was, I love the band, but the guy was very monotone and boring. It's the original bass player of Static X, and they just had a crazy, I don't know if they had a crazy thing happen. Their singer died a few years ago, Wayne Static. They found vocals of him on a hard drive, and they created an album around those vocals and released a new album with the dead singer. It's a really fascinating story, and the album's doing well, the best charting album that they've had in many, many years. Just a very, very boring. I really was not happy about that episode at all. But that episode now was quoted on every fucking major rock site this week, and everyone's linking to the podcast. And I was like, all right, well, even though it stunk, people found something in there to utilize, and anything that raises the profile of your show is always a good thing. Hence the book. Anything that raises a profile, you have something to talk about. It helps. It helps your mission.
So I 100% agree. And you were saying that, you know, anyone starting, but you've kind of gone to the top. Like, you have a top network, like a podcast network.
Yeah, we do really well.
Gas Digital. It stands for Gomez and Sutton.
Yeah, originally, it's funny. When we were pitching ideas, it's funny. I shot him the stupidest idea in the world. We were just coming up. No, neither one of us were happy with any of the names that we were coming up with. And I said, how about Lars? Because I was watching Metallica special or something, and I would say it stands for Lewis and Ralph Studios, right? Lars. I just thought it was funny. And he goes, well, actually, what about Gas? Gomez and Sutton. I'm like, yeah, because Gas, we could do High Octane, we could do, you know, Fuel Up and all this other shit. So that immediately, there's like, it was really he named it, but I dropped the seed to give it the name. But it was really, I give Lewis the credit for the name.
It works out. Well, people ask me if my name's fake, Sam Buck. They're like, is that like a stage name? I was like, no, like, that's my name. I don't know. I feel like, especially because my show is called Bucked Up, it would be really cheesy if that was a fake name. Like
a fake name to just
and then do a joke for that. It doesn't work.
That's funny. You know, we got lucky with Gas because you know, right now where I'm recording is in my second bedroom in my apartment in the city, and I was doing my radio show here. So we were already kind of set up for audio. And then when we decided to start the podcast, it was an easy leap because I already had the equipment. We didn't need to do anything. When we started the network, it was also we already had everything. So the first year, everybody was just kind of using the equipment I already had. And then once we started seeing, oh, this is kind of turning into something, we turned my home studio into a really nice studio. And then when that started to do well, and we grew to that was 4 shows when we started. And then we got to 11 shows. I came home one day on a date, and I thought the apartment was going to be empty. And we came home to, I think it was 11 people in my apartment, mostly dudes, if not all dudes. And I was on a first date with a girl who definitely thought we were going to rape her. Like there was no other thing that she thought, first date guy come check out my apartment, and there's just fucking 11 guys in my living room.
Cameras, there's lighting.
It was crazy. So I said, all right, we got to get fucking everybody out of this house now, or I'm going to kill. So that week I started looking. We probably moved prematurely. Like we probably moved a year earlier than we thought we would, but I just couldn't take it anymore. There were people in my house all the time. When we started, it was 4 shows. 3 shows were on a Monday. Mine was on Wednesday. So really only one day a week changed. The Monday sucked, but my show I was doing anyway. So it didn't matter. When we had 11 shows and there are people in my house every day, it really became very difficult. Like just really hard to deal with. It was really fucking a dark time for me. I was miserable, but I knew radio was dying. I was still doing my radio show at the time, but radio was dying, and I knew I was making less and less money, and it wasn't going to be something it was becoming a hobby that made me a few dollars as opposed to a way to sustain myself. So I figured this was the option. I can try once again to change careers, which I've done several times in my life, and fortunately it worked.
Was the radio, all right, let me rephrase this question. You said that you've changed career several times, but you saw the radio and you've kind of gone on to podcasting, and was like being like a radio host, was that always part of the dream, or was that something you kind of just fell into?
So I did it in college. I worked at the radio station in college for like 5 or 6 shifts. Right. But what happened was I always wanted to get into entertainment. I thought that was a fun thing to do. But when I was going to college and the training of the college radio station, you get to play whatever you want.
Where'd you go?
SUNY Albany.
Okay.
And you get to play any music you want. And I was at the time like really into hard rock and heavy metal stuff. And I was playing, as we were training, playing all the stuff I loved. And then it came to an on-air shift. And I was like, oh, you have to play a playlist? Like, I didn't know that was even a thing, that you could only play the songs that they told you to play. And it was all very college-y rock stuff that I did not like. So I did like 4 shifts, maybe. I don't even know, it might have been less than, whatever it was, a few shifts. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this. This is not fun. And I just kind of put it on the back burner and forgot about it for years. So that was when I was 20, 21. I was a strip club DJ for a long time. I was running restaurants for a long time. I went to cooking school. I briefly worked.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I just went to my first strip club ever the other week. I had never been to one. And I went to a post-quarantine strip club. It was on a first date. Speaking of weird first dates.
That's a cool first date. If she proposed it, that's great.
Yeah. She was like, let's go to the strip club. And they had like walls up. It looked like a fish tank. And they couldn't touch you. It was very strange. You had to like ball the dollars up and throw it over.
Really? That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Wow.
And like put their up against the glass. It was really
in Boston. Did you go into? I know you live outside of Boston.
No, because Rhode Island is the only thing that's opened up right now for comedy and for stripping, I guess. So all the strip clubs in Providence are open.
So I know there's a strip club in Jersey that's open because one of my friends. He owns a strip club, and it's he invited me to come out there, but I don't see the point. I can't wait a few more months. For me, I'm going to be first in line for the vaccine. I don't care what people think. Oh, it might get you sick. It also might give you superpowers. I don't fucking know. Who knows, right? So I'm just going to take it, and I don't want to be stressed anymore about it. I take care of my 78-year-old uncle in Brooklyn. My mom is 75. I don't want to be the reason one of them dies. So I'm just going to take a fucking vaccine. I don't care, and then life can return.
So much shit. People eat so much shit and they don't know where that comes from, but they're scared to take other certain things.
It's crazy. It is crazy. Yeah. All these genetically modified shit. 4
days a week. Like that's not good for you.
Yeah. It's crazy. It is crazy. But, I just, I let each person do what they want to do. I'm just choosing to go take it. Right. I've been vaccinated. We've all been vaccinated for, what is it? The rheumatoid, it's mumps. There's an acronym. I forget what it is, but it's the 4 vaccines you take as a kid. Mm-hmm. And everyone's fine with that, so except of course the anti-vaxxers, but I don't care. I'm just going to do it, get it over with, try and get back to life. If 1 year of my life was fucked up, it's not that bad. Big deal. I missed one holiday or shit. and then go back to being normal by May or April or May. Why not? But anyway, as you were saying, so I was in restaurants. I was a tech support guy for a while. I was at a strip club, and at the strip club, I met a radio DJ. He was doing the strip club 1 day a week. He was a strip club DJ. We just kind of got along, and him and I started the radio show together. And I had never been in radio. He was the radio guy. And a year, like 6 months, maybe a year after we started in this little shitty station up in Nowheresville, Jersey, we were now a year later, we were on the #1 rock station in Jersey, and we had 4 affiliates, like 4 stations that were also playing us. And then fast forward 3 or 4 years later, like 50 stations, 60 stations, and then eventually 90 stations every weekend from Maine out to Hawaii was playing my show for the weekend. It was every 3 hours every weekend, interviewing bands that I loved. I got to do what I wanted to do back in college, which was pick all the music and don't tell me what to play. And it did really well for a long time. But then the dynamic of radio changed, where people couldn't make money in radio anymore, really, unless you were on New York, LA, Chicago as a DJ there. It was hard to, or on like, a lot more stations than we were on. So I decided to pivot out, and that's how that started in 2016.
Oh, and especially with the genre of music that you like, with the hard rock and the metal, it's a very, I guess not very, but it's like a niche genre, especially as time goes.
Yeah.
And that's,
I do like everything. I'll be honest with you. I grew up loving hip hop and rap. I was in a breakdancing movie at 14 or 15. I loved hip hop and rap exclusively until someday, I think I was 16, and I was getting my hair cut, and this super gay guy was cutting my hair, and he said, you would look really good with long hair. I'm like, all right, I'll try it. So I started growing my hair long, and then I started getting laid. Like, all my friends had gotten laid already, but I didn't get laid till I was like end of 17 when I started to have long hair. My hair was eventually down to my ass, which at 6'6", that's a hell of a journey. So
yeah.
So and then I just
laid.
Yeah, gay guys changed my life more than once, I guess. But yeah, so that was so then anyway, so it wasn't as when I got into radio, I was running a restaurant. I had done it for 4 years, and I just wanted to do the radio thing. And I said, all right, I was 29 at the time. I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. I'm like, what am I afraid of? What's the worst that's gonna happen? I go back to strip club DJing in a couple of years. Who gives a shit? So I just did it, and that's how I started radio. And then when this happened, which is now, fast forward 16 years later, I just didn't see what else I would be doing. I didn't want to go, but someone asked me to go back to strip club DJing. That made me nauseous, the thought of it. Radio money was drying up. Fortunately, I had invested well. I have some income, passive income that I don't need to fucking stress, but you still need to know that you're doing something. So it was a big shot in the dark. And in fact, SDR was a radio show that I was going to do. That was the idea. It was a morning radio show that I was going to go out at night and party. And then whoever was still with me at 5:30 in the morning, I was going to bring to the radio station, and we were going to do a morning show and talk about what happened the night before. I figured I could do it for a year and maybe make some notoriety from it. And so I already had the logo, already had the URL, already had some of the imaging put together. So it was pretty easy to do. And then when Jay said, what are we going to call it? It was Jay's idea to originally start the podcast. I just showed him the logo, and he said, all right, I'm in. I'm sorry.
How did you guys meet?
Jay. So there was this comic that took me to see Jay after we went to go see a Poison concert, hilariously, Poison, Cinderella, I forget who else. And we took a couple of the guys from the band to go see a comedy show, and Jay was performing. And Jay recognized the guy from Cinderella in the studio. He goes, is that Fred Curry? Like, he recognized him. I'm like, well, I need this guy if he can recognize the drummer of Cinderella from stage, he should come on my show. So he came on the show, and we had a really good time. And for the next year, once in a while, he'd call me for tickets to a concert. Like, I got him Iron Maiden tickets once or something like that. And then this thing that I host for 11 years called Shiprocked asked me if I knew any rock and roll comedians. And I said, yeah, I know this guy. He's perfect. And he came on. They had us host a bunch of things together, and we made each other laugh the whole time. And he had been doing Legion of Skanks for a couple of years already. And he said, it's doing well. Maybe you should do a podcast with me. And I said, I appreciate it, but podcasting is for people that can't do radio. and I'm already doing radio. So I appreciate it, but no, thank you. And then a year later, I said, you know what? I would like to do it if you're still interested, because I'd read all the shit about how podcasting became so popular. And so we started a year later, and we started doing the show.
That's crazy. Like, that's just it is fun. I think about that, how just weird connections like that turn out to help you if you just kind of let it. I don't know if I don't know how spiritual, whatever, but like the omens of just like shit happens and it helps you along the way if you kind of accept who you are as like if being yourself.
I mean, I look at everything as an opportunity. You never know. You know, I don't take things negatively. And everything can go. You could turn any negative into a positive given, you know, the right
especially with, you said you're personable, like that, like a positive outlook. If you're nice to people, then people are going to want to be nice to you and help. I don't get why people are shitty to whoever, because any person can, if you're nice to them. Oh, that's a connection. You're networking. You're building your web.
It's funny. My first co-host of the radio show, the guy that was the strip club DJ who got me into radio, he was so proud of the fact that every radio job he had been in, he had gotten fired from it in some glorious way, like locking himself in and playing music or cursing out someone on the air. And I was like, why are you proud of that? Like, all those people could be the guy that now works at the #1 rock station in the country and he'll never hire you. I never understood that, ever. I go out of my way, like, especially at the time of Radio Now for podcasting, no one gave me advice. No one helped me. No one showed me a path. And I figured it out, made every mistake. The joke when we first started the network was my closet was filled with $10,000 worth of failed experiments and things that we thought would work for the show and didn't, or, you know, a card or a camera, or whatever. So I've made every mistake. Not that I'm infallible and not that what I'm doing, I'm not at the top of my game, but what anybody that has a question at any time, just text me or email me and I will try and answer you as best of my ability. I've always done that.
That's how, honestly, is I didn't know how to do the podcasting thing. I loved I got in a really bad hockey accident when I was 16 and I had to lay in a dark room for a month. And all I did for that month was listen to stand up and podcasting. Mm-hmm. And I've told this story a bunch of times, but that's kind of how I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't talk to anyone. That's how I fell in love with it. But I didn't know how to get into it until I met Ani and Irish. They had kind of like a studio in Boston going, and I met them through doing open mics in Boston, and they just helped me kind of be able to set it up. And really, I wouldn't be able to have this without them.
That's cool.
And I'm happy. Yeah.
And who knows, for two completely garbage human beings, they're pretty nice.
Exactly. they've helped me a lot, and they yeah,
the nicest thing you've ever said to me, Ralph.
Ani was on SDR a few weeks ago. Did you get any feedback from that, Ani, by the way? I don't mean to
Sure, in my DMs.
I'm sure you did. Yeah. Yeah, I got a couple of emails about it asking if she was available, and I said no, but it's kind of funny.
That was a ton of fun. I really liked being on. That was great. You guys should go watch it.
It's all the publicity is good publicity. You're talking about you on Queer Eye. I was on a dating show that Ani ran.
Really?
Yeah, she had a date.
Ani's podcast dating show that she does?
Yeah, yes. I was on that.
Did you meet anybody?
No, I actually got voted off because I wouldn't freestyle rap, and I don't like it. I find it like cringy, so I was like, I'll do a scat instead, and I scat sang, and I got voted out because I wouldn't rap.
I would think that they should have given you higher points for sticking to your morals.
That's what I think. Like, that's like, I don't know if you feel this way, but if someone was like, do like the death growl of metal, and you're like, no, like that's for the people who actually do it.
And I like for the same reason I don't do karaoke. I know I can't sing, so why would I subject people to hearing me try and do whatever it is that whatever gratification you get from it? I know I'm bad at it, so I have no desire to do it.
So that's why I was voted off that dating show.
I did do a rap battle with Jay on SDR with Run DMC's DMC judging. And the idea was don't judge. I said, don't judge who's better. Just judge who's least terrible, because we're not going to be good.
That sounds horrible, but it also sounds great.
Yeah, it was a fun episode. We've done a lot of fun, like little stunty, stupid shows over the years.
Is that, looking back when you were like 20 and you couldn't even play the music you wanted to, is it cool that you can interview who you want now?
Oh
and
yeah,
get
it's amazing. Like what was funny was it was more so. I always thought though, like with the radio show, there was a time when the show was really big. I would say it was probably around 2005, so 15 years ago. Show was on, let's say 95. We never broke 100, but like 90 something stations, and it was the show that people knew. Oh, I'm in an 80s style rock band, whether new or old. You know, Buck Cherry or one of these bands that were like Jet, or there were these bands that were coming out that felt 80s rock, but they were new. Or if you were in an older band like Motley Crue or whatever, and you have a new album coming out, they knew they had to come on my show. Like it was something you had to do. And then me saying to myself, wow, I had posters of all these guys on my walls growing up, and now I get to sit and talk with them. And some of them, like I remember I was sitting with the girl I was telling you about before, the actress, and my phone rang a couple times in a row, and it was different like rock stars from different bands from the 80s that were just calling me to ask me a question. And she goes, who the fuck are you? Like, why? And I said, it's funny now. In 2005, it's funny. If it was 1992, I would have been the coolest guy in the world, but it's not 1992, you know? So I was very aware that it's not amazing that, you know, the bass player of Dokken is calling me or whatever it is, you know, but I always appreciated it. And I've also, Lewis and I've talked about this at length, the fact that we're making money from opening your mouth and just saying nonsense. Granted, that's a far simple concept because there's much more to it than that. But really, if you just boil it down, you're selling your conversational skills. You know, there's 100 people behind the scenes that are making that able to happen. But the fact that that is actually what it is pretty amazing.
It is. I think about that where it's like, so I got in that hockey accident when I was 16. So this is...
Was it a stick up your ass or was it something more interesting?
I got hit from behind and I got a bad concussion. I got a level 5 out of 5 concussion. So I had to just like, yeah, it was bad. But I think about, this isn't as far of a time frame, but like looking now and having a podcast where I get to, no one else is going to be excited. I get to interview like underground rappers I love, or even like get to talk to you or comedians I love. Like that's something that for me is special and it's cool looking back on, but also it's like, oh, I followed what I enjoyed and it kind of came to fruition. Of course, I'm still in the red from this podcast. I'm not making money, but I'm doing it because I love it. And also because I'm going to look back in another 15 years and be like, oh shit, that really did help me out.
Right. I do think it's extremely therapeutic for people as well. It's funny. I recently had the singer of a band that I love called AWOL Nation on, right? And last minute, they're great.
I used to listen to them a lot. Yeah.
And last minute, my co-host couldn't do it. So it was just me and him, which I said, it's fine. I don't mind. We'll just me and him. It was a good interview. But the only other time I did that was with Mark Cuban, who was on the show about 2 years ago. And so I opened the interview. I said, we have Aaron Bruno from AWOL Nation on, and you should be honored because the only other time I've done a solo show is with Mark Cuban. And his response was, if I can be honest, I never thought in my life there would be a sentence that would include my name and Mark Cuban's name. So that's equally cool for him. And that's when I think about like all the cool people that have been on the show that I've gotten to talk to. It really always makes me super happy. I uniquely get excited almost every week for who's coming on the show. I don't book someone if I don't think it's going to be someone I'm excited to talk to, you know, except last week we had a girl on from the show Love After Lockup, but it's because Jay and Shannon fucking love the show. So I would be a dick to say no. I've never seen an episode, and I said I don't know the show, but let them ask all the questions. I
actually sat in watch. I was visiting Ani when you guys were doing that episode. But you were talking about the therapeutic aspect of it, and just like the being able to talk to who you want, and that's what I like about it. But also, I like, you said you meditated. You meditate now?
I started this month. Well, not this month because we're 2 days into December, but I started in November. Right now it's 3 minutes a day every day. And that's a lot for me to sit in silence and just focus on my breath. I think I'll up it, you know, to maybe 5 minutes and then eventually maybe 10. But right now I do it once a day, usually in the afternoon. I turn off everything, put all my equipment on Do Not Disturb, and just have my timer start for 3 minutes and do nothing for 3 minutes. And I think it helps. You know, I do think it helps. As funny as that, what my co-host said is, he doesn't think you'll feel the benefits of meditation until you stop doing meditation. And it's an interesting way of looking at it, because I don't know, that incremental change in your life, you may not feel that difference, but you may realize it when it's gone.
I totally agree. I'm up to 15 minutes. I've been practicing, but it's the same thing. The therapeutic, like, you think podcasting, like just boiling it down to talking would be very simple, but no, you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to, as you said, that's why it's not a good time to try drugs, is because it's like a conversation's a lot harder than you'd think it was. Just like sitting there with your own thoughts for 3 minutes a day is a lot harder. It's a lot. And you don't think about like 3 minutes of nothing and you feel like you're going to explode by the end. Like not that, but your mind starts running. It's hard to.
Yeah, it's hard. I keep trying to focus on the breath, because it's the one thing I could think about that doesn't involve any outside thoughts of what I need to do today. Who should I call back? What should I be texting? Who should I, if I just focus, and then when one of those things start drifting, I'm like, just breathe and just I bring myself back to the center of breathing. And it's funny we say about listening on a podcast. There's another very popular network here in New York called Compound Media, which is this guy, Anthony Cumia, who used to be on a show called Opie and Anthony. And his new co-host is this really funny guy, Dave Landau. And Landau once in a while will co-host with me. And he's also Anthony Cumia's co-host. And I'm not saying this to shit at all on Anthony Cumia, because I think he's a genius. But we had a guest on, and at the end, he texted me afterwards, Dave, and he goes, "Wow, you really listen to your guests." I was like, "Yeah, of course you should." I mean, he's not used to it, because when there's comedians on, they're more focused on making the joke of whatever you're saying should be the joke. And that's what you're concentrating on. But I try to focus on what are they talking about and what direction can we go from what they're saying.
And that's why you have to only talk to people you want to talk to. Like, I'm at this point where my podcast has a little bit more publicity than I do as a person. So then like people will want to be on the podcast. And of course I want to talk to them, but it's also like, I need to talk to people I want to learn from and be interested in. And then that's what meditation kind of helps me with, is because I get very like anxious, and just to learn to kind of be like, it's all going to work out, but it's tough. It's tough. The conversation where you don't want to talk to these people.
By the way, there's a guy I'm going to hit up after this that I think you would enjoy going on. I forget the name of the podcast, so I can't even give them a plug. I'm sorry, guys, but it's where they take you pick your favorite hip hop album, and then they listen to it, and then you all analyze it, and everyone gives it rankings on different criteria. So and I've done it a few times. I picked all old school hip hop records, and a couple of times I made them listen to rock records, which was kind of funny. But I picked like Eric B. and Rakim and Tribe Called Quest, like old school hip hop. But I think you would have a good time on that show. So I'm going to introduce you to after this.
Oh, I would love that. Rap is really, I listen to rap so much that I call like musicians non-rappers, like in mid-conversation. I'll be like, I was listening to this non-rapper, and I was like, wait, you mean like just a regular
like normal music person? Yeah. I still appreciate rap, but it's definitely not, if I hear a really good song, every once in a while I'll hear something ancillarily walking down the street. I'm like, oh, that's a good song. And I'll figure, I'll Shazam it and listen to it. But for me, it's still feel that I actually really like singer songwriter stuff, and there's no genre I don't like. I've said forever the only two kinds of music are good and bad, and I can find something I like in every genre.
I 100% agree. I don't know why. I do know why. I grew up listening to rap. My dad took me to see Wu-Tang Clan when I was like 12 years old. Like I was 12 or 13 and I saw them. I knew, but I like Buffalo rap because it's like old school, like the Wu-Tang. It comes out of Buffalo now. And that's kind of all I listen to is really like Buffalo rap.
Right before the pandemic, 50 Cent was supposed to come in and we were going to do our second rap battle. And I was so excited to have 50 Cent hate my rap skills, like just to be so miserable with whatever I came up with, and I was so excited, but I don't want to do it over Zoom. I think it's weird. So hopefully we can get him on once the universe reopens.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for being on. I had a really great conversation with you, and I appreciate you giving up your time. And hopefully we can meet in person, not over Zoom, once this is all over.
Absolutely. Once the world allows it, I'm all for it. Thank you for having me on, buddy.
Of course. Do you want to plug in your book, your
I'll hold
station?
up the book again. So again, it is called the 100% Guaranteed Guide to Weight Loss and Fitness. If you just put in Ralph Sutton Fitness on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, it'll come up. It's only $12, which is the cheapest I could make it on as a book. And it's a great stocking stuffer for Christmas. If you order, I think, before the 10th or 11th, maybe, I forget when, they guarantee that it'll be there before Christmas. And any one of your friends who's been struggling with weight loss, I think it's a funny gift for them. Follow me everywhere at I Am Ralph Sutton. My first podcast, The SDR Show, follow everywhere at The SDR Show. And then my other podcast, which is about health and wellness, Good Sugar, follow everywhere at goodsugar.life, which is even on Instagram at goodsugar.life. And thank you so much for having me on, man.
Of course, thank you. You are not a dead pianist.
Yeah, and I said that I had an idea that I think is funny because it is my picture that comes up with the dead pianist, and I thought it would be funny to put out a jazz piano record. Just put one out. Why not? And then I could put that in the same thing with the book. Just put out a jazz piano record, and then I could say, yeah, I put out. What do you mean? Of course, that is me. What do you mean?
That's like if you look up Sam, but I know we just gave plugs, but this is fun. When you look up Sam Buck, the only other like Sam Buck is there's an article written called "The Next Big Gay Country Star." Sam Buck.
That's great. That's great.
That's who he is. He's like a gay country star named Sam Buck.
Lean into it, buddy. Lean into it.
I feel like you can be the jazz pianist, and I'll be a gay country star. We'll make it.
We'll hit the road together in 2021.
We'll go on tour. But all right, thank you very much. I appreciate it, everyone. Thanks for listening. You can subscribe, listen wherever you get your podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.